including feathers, headdresses. Watch this. A 1912 photograph in the New York Herald features 5 indigenous peoples in varying states of Indian dress, meaning they was all dressed in Indian regalia. It says including feathers, headdresses, and beaded necklaces. Among the portrait of these Indians in New York is Stephen Glory, a Filipino. You see, he's a Filipino. He's not even.
And imagine them. Imagine them. Look at all them. Imagine them. If he's a Filipino, he looks just like the woman next to him.
American counterparts, Glory is dressed in a plains-style headdress that was popular in portraits and touring Indian shows.
They're letting you know they stole portraits and stole all this.
Simultaneously labeled as one of the Indians in the image and as a Filipino. Glory's presence in the photograph recalls the shifting and slippery racial categories for Filipinos in the aftermath of the Spanish-American and Philippine-American wars. You see that? It says the racial categories, meaning they started changing Filipinos' race to Native Americans. This lines up with Asian slaves in Mexico. Watch this.
Crazy.
It says, by the time the image was taken in 1912, Glory, a former student of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, had joined a traveling Indian show in New York and changed his identity from Stephen Glory, a Filipino, to Stephen Redleaf, a Pueblo, meaning a Pueblo Indian.
So without a shot of a doubt, we now know, without a shot of a doubt, that Chino slaves and these Eskimos, how they became the so-called Native American, how they are now saying they're Indians today.
Some of these people that they were calling Native Americans were in fact Filipinos. They were not actually indigenous people, but yet they still call these people Native Americans. These Filipinos were just incorporated into Indian society, and they started calling them Indians, even though they wasn't. But watch this. Let's go to the book.
Does this look familiar? Just throw a headdress on them. A feathered headdress.
Now, this is the introduction in the book Asian Slaves in Mexico. Watch this. It says during the late 16th and 17th centuries, countless slaves from culturally diverse communities in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia journeyed to
Look how they
Mexico
scratched
on
this
the
man's
ship
face
of
off
the
and started trying to draw his face
shit.
in.
Nope.
You see it?
Ain't this
This is Lex Will. I watch some of his content. With his content, you know, he has a lot of good content.
This is the image.
A lot of good
where they
sources.
scratched these people's faces out and they put our fucking faces on.
No, they didn't even put our faces. They put African faces. Because I seen a picture like this with an African. They didn't even put American Negro face. But African faces.
Right? What do you say? From the 16 to 17 to 1800s? Where was there time for me or you to be on that ship?
Exactly. Because they got photos. They got their photos while they don't have any of ours.
Something evil about this.
But watch this. Let's go to the book Asian Slaves in Mexico and let's read the introduction. Now, this is the introduction in the book Asian Slaves in Mexico. Watch this. It says during the late 16th and 17th centuries, countless slaves from culturally diverse communities in the Indian subcontinent.
See, look how they was cutting his face. Look at that.
Asia journeyed to Mexico on the ships of the Manila Galleon. Upon arrival in Mexico, they were
excuse my voice is hoarse.
and categorized as Chinos. So all of these Filipinos and anybody that was of Asian descent was all grouped.
Now, if you look, they got these people as labeled as Negritos. Negrito. You see, they don't have afro. They have curly hair.
That has a straight texture. Mm-hmm.
You see, they have black skin.
Dark skin.
This one's black as ink.
You're really dark.
Together and categorized as Chinos. It says their experience illustrates the interconnectedness.
They're having a party outside, guys. That's what you're in the background.
And the reach of the crown, which brought people together from Africa, the Americas, Asia, and
there's
Europe
no proof of the Africa.
Unprecedented way.
There's no proof of the Africa ever.
Chinos in Mexico came to be treated under the law as Indians, becoming indigenous.
Look at that, becoming
of the Spanish crown after 1672. Becoming.
Look at that right there. I hope y'all see that. I'm gonna just pause it just a little bit so you can just. It says right so you can see. I know there's a glare. So becoming. You see it? Becoming indigenous vassals. They're becoming Indians, y'all. They're becoming them.
The PDF. That's the same exact thing we just read. They became indigenous. It says the implications of this legal change were enormous. As Indians, rather than Chinos, they could no longer be held as slaves.
Amen. That's why they became
Chino's complex journey from the slave market in Manila to the streets of Mexico City. And from bondage.
So all your Mexicans are Filipino or Siberian or Eskimo, if you will.
Slave experience in the Americas.
The slaves
these Filipinos and changed their race to Native American, indigenous. These people
not just the Filipinos, y'all.
Bottom line.
So there you have it again. It all starts with the insurrection of Wilmington, North Carolina, right? And this is when it told you a coup. That's an overthrow of the
and this ain't alleged. This is proof. It's verifiable evidence. You see the sources. You can look it up. Now you know without a shadow of a doubt.
So if you're home and you're cooking dinner for your hubby because he out there running the city.
And here's the Lex is funny. But the crazy thing about it is that despite all this evidence clearly proving that all these Native Americans are actually hypocrites and liars, and we now that we American Negro who were reclassified from Indian in your 1924 Racial Integrity Act, we were reclassified from Indian to colored, Negro, black, and now African American in 1988. And so clearly now we know that we were reclassified not from African, but Indian to these different, names, these different bywords, if you will. And these immigrants from, Siberia and the Philippines or from, East Asia or Asia Minor, they were brought over as slaves. And then to get freedom, what did they do? They stole our identity. And then called us Africans along with the Slavic whites who came over here so that they can get our land. And despite us knowing this and having evidence to prove this, what angers me the most is that with all this evidence out, us knowing the truth, they will not stop putting out silly movies of slavery, silly movies of us being African. It just like they're just going to continue the status quo despite knowing that we now have solidified proof and evidence that we are the true Indians and that those so-called Native Americans are fakes. They're frauds. They're Mongols from either Siberia or the Manila Philippines, or from Asia. So it doesn't make any sense why you keep continuing the story. Why? I mean, it's so annoying to me because it's like, with all evidence supporting that we clearly are the American Indian, they continue the status quo. But I guess they can't admit defeat and admit that they're a liar because then it exposes everything else, right? So this is the video. I hope you guys like, share, and subscribe and turn on notification. I don't post often, but when I finally post, I love to post good news. This is Kendra with True TV, and I'm out.